Investor, educator, and author Robert Kiyosaki has changed millions of lives all over the world. His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been on the New York Times bestseller list for over 5 years. We all know that the gap between the haves and the have-nots is growing, and Social Security and Medicare are in a financial mess. And just affording to live is getting expensive. So how does a person get ahead financially? The answer is raising your financial IQ and having your money work for you. Here's Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad's Teach to Be Rich.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. Please take your seats. Thank you. May I see a show of hands? How many people have already read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Good. Thank you. Has anybody not read it? Oh, good. There's still a few customers out there. I'm glad to see that. You know. I'm not going to be talking so much about Rich Dad, Poor Dad today, but I'm going to be on this program. But I'll be talking about this book here. It's our latest product called Teach to Be Rich. And in my opinion, it's a whole new direction for Rich Dad in many ways. We're going into trying to do our best to solve what I consider to be a massive, massive financial problem, not only in America, but throughout the world here. And when you look at the globe here, my personal concern is this growing gap between the haves and have-nots. And all throughout the world, no matter where I go, there's always people who are rich in every country, but there's also the poor, and there's also those that are, struggling financially. So this product, Teach to Be Rich, is really designed to help solve, and there's many causes of the problem, but one way of solving that problem is through education. So that's what this Teach to Be Rich product is about. And if I could explain what's happening in our school systems, there's many types of education, like there's music education, health education, cooking education, stuff like this. But to be successful in today's complex world and getting more complex world, we need 3 types of basic education. And one of them is academic education, which is reading and writing and arithmetic. It's very important that you be able to read and write. The second type of education is professional education. And when I was in school back in the 60s, if you did really well, you were A's, then you went to become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. Since I wasn't an A student, I didn't go to those professions and things like this. But, and these two are very important. My poor dad was a man who really thought this was all you needed. He kept saying, go to school so you can get a high-paying, what? Job. And that's all my poor dad thought I needed. My rich dad, who was my best friend's father, he said if you wanted to be successful, you needed financial education. And unfortunately, as many of us know, our school systems teach us very little or anything about financial education. So I'm not saying that these are not important. I'm saying that today, just going to school, just to get a good, be able to read and write and have a job, is inadequate. What I'm saying today, in today's complex world, we all need financial education. So what this course or this program is about, and this Teach to Be Rich program is about financial education. It doesn't mean to negate any of this here. So if I could go into, I did graduate from high school and go on, and my professional education was, I learned to be a ship's officer. So I drove tankers for Standard Oil of California. And I also flew aircraft for the Marine Corps, U.S. Marine Corps, so I was a pilot in Vietnam. So I've had 2 professions. But I've never used any of them, very simply because my rich dad taught me this here. And the way my rich dad began, at the age of 9, began teaching me financial education was really simple. He just started playing the game of Monopoly. I remember as a kid, 9 years old, I'd go to my rich dad's office. I'd say, you gonna teach me you're rich? He goes, sure. And he'd break out the Monopoly board game and we'd sit there and play for hours. And he'd tick, 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 tick. How many people in this room have played Monopoly? Good. And I sat there, and then I'd go home, and I'd say to my poor dad, the school teacher, I said, guess what I did today? I said, I played Monopoly. And he goes, oh, what a waste of time. Put that silly game away and do your what? Homework, so you can get a good, safe, secure what? job. So here, my dad saying Monopoly was a waste of time, and my rich dad saying this is a brilliant game. So I kept going back and forth, and that's why I'm schizophrenic today, because I don't know the difference. But the difference here is this: I keep playing this game of Monopoly. And then I go home, and my poor dad would say it's a waste of time. So one day I asked my rich dad, I'm only 9 years old, I said, why do you say this is so important? So he actually took me out, and he showed me, this was in Hawaii where I was growing up, he showed me what were the representations of his 4 green houses. He'd sit there like that. I said, what does this mean? He says, well, the formula for great wealth is found on the Monopoly game board. And most of us know the formula. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. So it started to dawn on me at the age of 9, my rich dad was playing Monopoly for real, and my poor dad, a school teacher, PhD, thought it was a waste of time. And so I was really quite confused. So then at the age of 9, it goes fast forward, at 19, I go to school in New York. I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in New York. I got a congressional appointment for that. So I come back from school in New York. I'm now 19 years old, and my rich dad has bought the big red hotel smack dab in the middle of Waikiki Beach. And suddenly I went, holy mackerel, he's done it. In 10 years, he went from a poor man to a rich man playing Monopoly. And meanwhile, I go back to my dad, and he's still saying, be sure you get good what? Grades, so you can get a good what? Job. And that's why the whole difference is spanned. So one of the reasons I was able to retire at a relatively early age of 47, and my wife was 37 when she retired, was not because of what we learned here. And again, I'm not saying this is important. I'm saying it was because this is also important today. So at the age of 47, I retired very simply playing Monopoly. And today, I still play Monopoly. I think it's a really fun game, So my concern, and the reason I created this Teach to Be Rich program is because, as I said, all across the world, there's a growing gap between the haves and have-nots. The good news is, people in China and India and things like that, many of them, their standards of living are coming up. But the poor are still poor. And that's not that healthy. So if I show you a diagram here, this here is the year 2000, and this is why I'm concerned. In my opinion, and many economists and other people would disagree with me, right now the US looks like this. You have the rich, and you have the poor. Okay. And this is the US, but it's a worldwide problem. And in here, you have the great middle class. My concern is that by the year 2020, and it's just going to start in a few years, it's going to look like this. In a few years, due to a lack of financial education in America, I predict that there will be more rich, and I intend to be one of them, but there will also be more poor. There will be an increasing number of poor. How many people know family or friends or co-workers who have nothing set aside for their retirement? Good, thank you. And that's what I'm concerned about. And what I'm really concerned about is this, I've been going into it as time goes on, is one of the reasons this problem happened is very simply because our school system still teaches us nothing about money. And people like my poor dad, a school teacher, always said the government should take care of you. And our problem right now is in America, from presidents on down, there are millions and millions and millions of people who are on the government handout. I mean, Clinton is on the government handout, every senator is on it, military officers, firefighters, soldiers, and everything. They're all on this government handout. And what I'm concerned about is America, which is a great rich country, will soon become a very poor country. Does that make sense to you guys here? And the reason we become poor is simply because we have so many people, not just poor people, expecting the government to take care of them. The concern here is this. This here is the middle class. And these are the guys that are going to pay for these guys here. Does that make sense to you? And I can hear some of you saying, well, it's not my problem because I'm still young. How many people in this room were born after 1964? Good. I want to thank you because you're the ones to be paying for my retirement. And these are the people that pay the taxes. So the reason I created Teach to Be Rich here is very simply because I predict, and I could be wrong, like in the next 20 years, even though it's a worldwide problem of this gap between the haves and have-nots, even in the richest country in the world, in the next 20 years, we're going to see a transfer going this way. So you'll see more rich people in America, but you'll also see more poor people. And in my opinion, what got us into this problem of this so many poor people in the richest country in the world is because we have a lack of financial education. In my opinion, the way out of the problem is also to increase financial education. So the reason I created this product here, again, I'm not blaming school teachers. It is a system of education that has not, supported this here, and I think it's by design here, that we need this. So I'm asking every one of you at home and in this audience today is to consider it, is to learn to teach other people to be rich. And the reason we created this product is because I became a rich person by teaching. I've been teaching now since 1980, and but not in the school system. I wouldn't work for that pay scale. And I make millions of dollars a year as a school teacher. But the main reason is not so much to make myself money. The main reason I found teaching to be one of the best professions of all, and I didn't come across my profession until I was 40 years old, because I hated school. I found school the most boring, inhumane place. I didn't know I was stupid until I went to school. I said, what do you mean I'm stupid? So I would not create a product that is like the school system. For years, I have practiced and learned how to make education more fun. How to make it more entertaining, how to make it more effective, how to make it so the person learns something rather than sits there bored, stiff, and falling asleep all the time. So that's what they created this product for, but in the positioning statement on this book, it says, why teach to be rich? So regardless if you're a teacher or not a teacher, if you have a sincere desire to help solve this problem called growing poverty in America, but also desire to help yourself and help your family and your friends, because I suspect this is a very big problem. But the reason this Teach to Be Rich works is because the best way to learn is to teach what you want to learn. How many people ever found that out? That if you wanted to learn how to play golf, one way is to teach other people to play golf, except if it's your wife. You never do that. That's rule number one in golf. Don't teach your wife to play golf. But anyway, one of the best ways to learn is to teach. And the second reason for this product is, and the best way to get rich is help other people to get rich. Does that make sense to you guys here? So this is a product. It comes in basically 3 different parts. Number one, I'll go into the macroeconomics, because although I didn't do well in school, I did like history. And I studied history. For some reason, I really enjoy history. And that was one of the only few subjects I got A's in. The second part of this book here is, it's about education. It's how we learn. And again, I'll say it. I would not ever ask anybody to teach the way our school system teaches. It is the most inhumane, boring way to learn. It only works for about 20% of the population. How many people are ever bored in school at times? How many people ever wondered, why am I studying this? Everyone wonders, how am I going to use this in the real world? Right? Well, this book sort of answers it. So this is a very practical book. So number one, it's about history, how we got into this problem. Number two is some of the lessons I learned after 25 years of teaching, how to make it more effective for more people, more fun. And number three in this program, you'll be meeting my real advisors, the people that really are the A students around me. It's like I said, one of the things I learned in school was the best way to get smart is sit next to the smartest girl in class, but the teachers always called that cheating, at test time, like this. But in the real world, that's called cooperation, and stuff like this. So later in this program, you will be meeting some of my real advisors. And again, as the introduction said, your financial advisor may not want you to look at this program. And the reason they may not want you to look at this program is because in this program, you will learn that some of the best financial advice is bad financial advice, like the advice of work hard. How many people are told to work hard? How many people are taught to save money? Good. For those of you who think saving money is interesting, stay tuned. You'll find that's one of the worst, most risky investments you can do. 3 is invest for the long term, or get out of debt. How many people have heard get out of debt? Good. You'll find out the people that win are people who are debtors, and savers are losers. And the 4th thing is invest for the long term. How many people have heard that one? And how many people heard the word diversify, diversify, diversify? Good. In this program, you'll find out why that is very bad financial advice. But the only reason it's good financial advice is because most people don't have this. It's good financial for these people. Save money, work hard, get out of debt and all, but not for these people who have this here. So that's really what the program is about. My concern, again, is, like I said, right now in the year 2000, we have a strong middle class. The economy's booming. Housing prices are up and things like this. But it's going to start shifting here. And the main reason it's going to start shifting is if we can go to the plasma up here, there are 5 major macroeconomic events that are starting to happen right now that may cause America tremendous problems. Number 1 is cheap oil. America has boomed up to this point because oil was cheap. Number 2, funny money. What I mean by funny money is the US dollar, after 1971, became the reserve currency of the world. The US government can print as much money as it likes and the world will take it. As long as the world will take it, we're okay. But the moment the world says we don't want this monopoly money anymore, it's toast. So there's a great book for those who have any questions on funny money. It's written by a friend of mine, Richard Duncan, and it's called The Dollar Crisis. And he goes into explaining why the US dollar, how it got to be the most powerful single currency in all the world. We have never been here before, ladies and gentlemen. We have never been here where there was one currency that dominated the world. And the problem with it, the federal government is printing it faster than any of us could ever save it. And so that's why I say funny money is going to change and it'll only change if the rest of the world says we won't accept it. And already the petrodollar countries like who have oil are now thinking about not accepting the US dollar. If that ever happens, we're toast. They'll start taking the euro and other currencies. If that happens, everything as we know it as this economy crashes, or at least changes. So that's why this book here, The Dollar Crisis by Richard Duncan, is a very important book to read. The 3rd reason why I'm predicting this is going to happen right over here is right now America has a very young labor force. The baby boomers, one of the biggest booms ever hit. It's worldwide. In America, there's approximately 75 million baby boomers. In 2008, which is only about 2 years away, the first baby boomer starts to retire. Number 4, China and Russia were communist back in the year 2000. Now they're capitalists. You have no idea what that means. You have no idea, because the oxymoron, and oxymoron is something like military intelligence, postal service. Well, the oxymoron is Chinese communist, because I grew up in Hawaii, and most of my friends who are Chinese, they are not communist. My Chinese friends are all capitalists. They're some of the smartest money guys I've ever met in the world. In fact, Hawaii is owned by the Chinese today. They're so smart. And now that they're coming on, in 2001, China was allowed to enter the WTO, the World Trade Organization. And they're coming on strong. Russia's coming on strong. Eastern Europe's coming on strong. What that means for all of us here is this idea of a safe, secure job with benefits, like the transit strikes and all that. It's toast. If you're thinking right now that you can keep getting a pay raise, think again. Because the guy that's competing for your job now lives in China, India, or Russia. That's the problem of the world right now. And the 5th point, America is rich. Up to 2000, we're the richest country in the world. Will we continue to be that? I don't know. There's a good possibility that we might become, right now we're the biggest debtor nation in the world. And the only reason we're the biggest debtor nation in the world is because funny money. So I'll just summarize right now is the main reason I created this book is because we're making the shift right now. And I am concerned not only for myself and my family and my friends, but I am concerned about you. I wish I could say this book would help everybody, but obviously it can't. Because some people, when it comes to money, will never change. My concern here is this, that the middle class will be decimated by higher taxes. For those of you born after 1964, there is a prediction that your Social Security taxes alone will go from approximately 15% to as high as 50% just to cover all the old guys with no savings or retirement here. So I created this book, Teach to Be Rich, so that you can teach yourself and possibly your friends and loved ones, and hopefully some of you can make it out of here and into this category here. And that's why this book was created. Thank you very much.